Well, there are many countries where Americans want to visit, and want to connect with the culture there. Now culture and history of every country is different, and every country has its own language and way of life, which we enjoy watching a lot. But friends, there are countries in the world whose culture is similar to that of America, and there are also countries whose culture is quite different from America's culture. Today we are going to talk about those countries, whose culture and history matches America, and those people give a lot of respect to Americans. Now friends, there are some countries like this. The history of this place is different and they used to be enemies with America, but today they give so much importance to Americans. After all, which are those countries which welcome Americans so much, and why they do so? Let us know. So now we are going to talk about a country whose history is quite rich, and their history is very similar to the history of America. So our first country is United Kingdom. Now I don't need to tell you about America's relations with United Kingdom. As much as Americans associate themselves with the people here, they also do the same. Because the culture and history here is the same, and the most important thing is that the language of these two countries is also the same. When you talk to Americans about the UK, you'll often hear about the royal family, British accents, and Harry Potter. But the connection goes way beyond pop culture. Historically, the US and the UK have been allies in numerous global conflicts, and that bond has translated into a mutual respect that's lasted for centuries. The world wars, we were side by side, and when it comes to political leadership, there's always been a certain camaraderie between US presidents and British prime ministers, from Churchill and Roosevelt to the modern day. Then, there's the fact that British TV and music are absolutely beloved in the US. Whether it's the Beatles, Adele, or Ed Sheeran, British musicians dominate American charts. And don't even get us started on British television. Shows like The Crown, Doctor Who, and Downton Abbey have a huge fan base in the US. Americans can't get enough of British humor, too. Shows like The Office and Monty Python have cemented that connection. But let's not forget travel. Americans frequently travel to the UK, and it's often at the top of the list for international vacation destinations. It's easy to see why. No language barrier, a wealth of historical landmarks, and let's not forget those picturesque countryside villages. There's just something so charming about a cozy British pub or taking a stroll through the lush landscapes of the Cotswolds. Americans find a sense of familiarity with the UK, and that feeling is mutual. So friends, this was the reason why people of United Kingdom welcome Americans so much. If I have missed anything, you can let me know in the comment section. So now let's move on to our second country, which is Canada. First of all, Canada shares a border with America, which I think is the longest border in the world. And if I am not wrong, then there is no need of any army in this border. And if so, then you can only think about their relationship, which is very good. And not only that, the two countries work together through NATO and NORAD, so this means that both of them also protect each other. Friends, there's also a strong cultural bond between the two nations. Canadian musicians, actors, and comedians are incredibly popular in the US. Just think of big names like Drake, Ryan Reynolds, or Celine Dion. They're household names in America, and their success is a testament to how much we value Canadian talent. Plus, let's talk about hockey for a second. Hockey is basically Canada's national pastime, and it has a huge following in the US as well. The NHL brings together fans from both countries, and the rivalry between American and Canadian teams is one of the most fun to watch in the sports world. Another reason Americans feel so welcome toward Canadians is because of the shared values between the two nations. Both countries have strong democratic traditions, a commitment to human rights, and a similar approach to governance. It's easy to see why Americans are so fond of Canadians. They're like family, but with slightly different accents. And let's not forget that many Americans have dual citizenship or family ties in Canada, making travel and relationships across the border even stronger. Whether it's taking a weekend trip to Montreal, enjoying the beauty of Banff National Park, or exploring the cosmopolitan vibes of Vancouver, Canada is like a second home for many Americans. Friends, if you have ever been to Canada, then you must know how good the hospitality there is, so please tell us in the comments. So now let's move on to our third country, which is Australia. Australia has a long history of being one of the top destinations for American travelers, and it's easy to see why. The beautiful beaches, incredible wildlife, and iconic landmarks like the Sydney Opera House make it a dream destination. But beyond the tourist attractions, Americans appreciate the Aussie spirit, friendly, fun-loving, and always up for a good time. Culturally, Australia and the US are like distant cousins. We share a love for sports. Australians are crazy about rugby, cricket, and Australian rules football, while Americans have their football, baseball, and basketball. And when it comes to entertainment, Australian actors and filmmakers have a huge presence in Hollywood. Think about stars like Hugh Jackman, Margot Robbie, and Nicole Kidman, who have become fan favorites in the US. The US and Australia also have a strong military and political alliance, particularly through their participation in major global conflicts, which has solidified a sense of camaraderie between the two nations. Americans often feel a sense of trust and admiration toward Australians because of these shared experiences. There's also the fact that Americans admire Australia's laid-back approach to life. Whether it's surfing the waves, barbecuing with friends, or exploring the outback, Australia represents a certain kind of freedom and fun that Americans can relate to. It's no wonder so many Americans dream of visiting or even living down under. So now let's move on to our fourth country, which is Japan. Let me ask you, what comes to your mind when you hear Japan? Rules and regulations, laws, technology and anime. Many of you must have seen Japanese anime. Some of them are Naruto, Jujutsu Kaisen, Dragon Ball and my favorite Attack on Titan. So let's talk about Japan. Americans have had a fascination with Japan for decades, and it's a relationship that has only grown stronger over time. While the history between the two countries is complex, especially considering World War II, the US and Japan have developed a close and respectful bond, particularly in the areas of technology, culture, and trade. Japan is often seen by Americans as a country that beautifully blends the traditional with the modern. On one hand, you have centuries-old temples, tea ceremonies, and samurai culture. On the other hand, Japan is a leader in cutting-edge technology, fashion, and pop culture. For many Americans, Japan represents innovation and creativity. From cars to electronics, Japanese brands like Toyota, Sony, and Nintendo are household names in the US. And don't even get us started on Japanese cuisine. Sushi, ramen, and tempura have all become incredibly popular in the US, and Japanese restaurants are everywhere. In addition, Japan and the US have a strong economic partnership. Japan is one of America's top trading partners, and the two countries work closely on issues like security, technology, and environmental sustainability. So friends, this was the reason that relations between Japan and America are so good, and when Americans go there, why do they get so much respect? So our last country is Germany. World War II and its aftermath shaped much of the relationship between the US and Germany, but over the years, the two countries have forged a strong bond. Today, Germany is one of America's closest allies in Europe, and they collaborate on everything from economics to defense. Americans respect Germany for its efficiency, innovation, and leadership in fields like engineering, automotive technology, and green energy. Brands like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen are incredibly popular in the US, and Germany's commitment to sustainability is something that many Americans admire. Germany's culture is also a big draw for Americans. From Oktoberfest to the Christmas markets, Germany's festivals and traditions are celebrated in the US. German food, particularly bratwurst, pretzels, and beer, is enjoyed by many Americans, and cities like Berlin and Munich are popular tourist destinations. One of the most significant aspects of the relationship between the US and Germany is the shared focus on innovation. Both countries are leaders in science. So friends, because of these things, German people also respect Americans. So friends, this was our today's video. If you want to tell me something, then you can tell me in the comment section. And if you liked the video, then please subscribe the channel. I will see you in the next video.